A lion steps out of the dark, and every muscle in your body reacts before you even think. Pulse up, breath sharp, every nerve aimed at one shape in the dark. Now picture 4 straight days of cold rain instead. Nothing spikes, no alarm, just cold, hour after hour. Yet across dozens of studied hunter-gatherer groups, exposure and illness killed far more people than any animal attack ever did. At sites like Swartkrans in South Africa, predator marks on ancient bones turn up, but only on a small share of them. That gap in the human alarm system nearly wiped out entire bands of early people. Evolution never had a reason to build a siren for slow, gray, silent danger. Paleolithic skeletons carry bite marks, claw gouges, healed fractures from animal attacks. Researchers count those marks by the dozen across hundreds of sites. Death, by cold, wet exposure, leaves nothing behind. No mark, no wound, just an empty camp, a cold hearth, and a story nobody wrote down. Skin loses heat in water roughly 25 times faster than in dry air. 10 degrees Celsius sounds mild. Add wet clothes and a light wind. That same 10 degrees drops a human into hypothermia within hours. Core body temperature only has to fall about 2 degrees below 37 before judgment and coordination start slipping. Slipping judgment in a storm means missed firewood, a wrong turn, a slow reaction. All 3 can be fatal. Wind makes it worse. Moving air strips the thin layer of warmth the body builds against wet skin. Human fear reacts to teeth, claws, motion, size. It fires instantly. A dropping temperature triggers almost nothing. No adrenaline, no warning bell. Early humans had to override biology just to take rain seriously. So how do you outthink a threat your own body refuses to fear? Start with fire, because a fire that goes out in a storm is a death sentence. Wet wood does not ignite. Wet tinder does not catch. Rain kills flame fast. So groups stopped making fire and started carrying it instead. European explorers recorded the Yahan people of Tierra del Fuego doing exactly this. They kept embers burning inside their canoes on open, freezing water. Aboriginal Australian groups carried smoldering fire sticks across entire seasonal migrations. One person's entire job, in bad weather, was keeping that ember alive. Not hunting, not gathering, just shielding a coal from wind and water. That is one of the earliest job titles our species ever created. Ötzi, the 5,300-year-old iceman found frozen in the Alps, carried proof of this habit. A pouch on his belt held dried tinder fungus paired with flint. That fungus smolders for hours without an open flame, ideal for carrying through rain. Fire needs a roof, though, and rain forces a second decision fast. At Terra Amata, near modern Nice, archaeologists found post holes 400,000 years old. Branches were angled on purpose, leaves layered like shingles, each row overlapping the next. That is a roof, built without a single tool we would recognize as engineering. At Ohalo, too, on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, a hut survived 23,000 years under mud and water. The mud that once threatened the camp is exactly what sealed and preserved it for archaeologists today. Later, in colder open country, people ran out of branches and switched materials. They anchored heavy animal bones into the ground to build frames that held against wind. Stretched hide over that frame turned a bone pile into a dry room. Groups also dug a shallow trench around the base of a shelter, a detail that rarely makes the documentaries. That trench redirected runoff away from the sleeping area instead of letting it pool underneath. It is the same idea behind a modern French drain, discovered independently thousands of years earlier. Raw hide has natural fat in it, and fat repels water on its own. Scrape it, stretch it, treat it with fat, and you have invented leather. That decision, kill an animal today for weather protection weeks later, is long-range planning. Plant fiber capes probably existed too. They just rotted and left no trace. Centuries later, Japanese farmers wove nearly the same design from rice straw, called a mino. Overlapping layers shedding water is an idea people keep reinventing, worlds apart. Sewing any of this into a fitted shape needed a needle, and needles are older than most people guess. A bone needle from Denisova Cave in Siberia dates back roughly 50,000 years. A loose hide cape blocks some rain. A sewn, layered garment blocks far more, and holds in body heat besides. None of this works if you get caught in the open by surprise, though. So groups learned to read weather the way a sailor reads waves. Animals shift behavior hours before a storm. Birds fly lower. Insects swarm low to the ground. Groups that noticed had 3 hours of daylight to find high ground and build cover. Elevation matters more than people assume. Cold air sinks. Wet air pools in low ground. Camp on a rise and you wake up damp. Camp in a hollow and you wake up flooded. Slope direction mattered too. In the northern hemisphere, south-facing ground catches more sun and dries faster after a storm. Thick tree canopy intercepts a large share of light rain before it ever reaches the ground below. Groups returned to the same sheltering ridge or overhang for generations, and it shows. Layers of ash stacked on top of each other mark a spot everyone kept coming back to. Some Aboriginal Australian communities track 6 seasons a year instead of 4, each one tied to specific rain and wind patterns. A calendar that detailed is not folklore. It is a survival manual passed down by memory alone. Cloud shape carried information too. Flat, low, fast-moving cloud usually meant hours, not days, before rain landed. The body adapted alongside the behavior, over generations. Regular cold exposure blunts the sharp panic response people get from sudden cold water. A modern person dropped into that river gasps, hyperventilates, and can drown from panic alone, even as a strong swimmer. A body trained by daily cold and wet simply does not fire that same alarm as hard. Populations living in cold, wet climates for generations show higher resting heat production. Their bodies were not stronger by chance. They were shaped by decades of demand. Brown fat tissue burns energy purely to generate heat, and cold-adapted populations carry more of it. None of this held up for one person alone, though. Rain is a group problem. Bodies huddled together under a shared cover trap heat that one body alone leaks away. Kids stayed in the center. Strong adults took the exposed outer ring on purpose. Personal space is a comfort only warm, dry weather can afford. Cold rain erases it fast. Older members, who could no longer forage fast, still knew exactly where to run in a storm. Losing an elder in a storm season meant losing memory nobody could quickly rebuild. That likely explains why care for the old shows up early in the archaeological record. If prehistoric survival like this keeps you hooked, the subscribe button sits right below this video. Rain does not pause hunger either, and it hides most of the usual food. So people cached food in advance, buried in cool ground or raised off it. They also switched targets. Worms surface by the thousand after heavy rain. Fish move in predictable patterns through flooded channels, and mushrooms fruit fast in the wet. Nuts and acorns gathered before the rains still needed work. Raw acorns are bitter and mildly toxic until leached. Soaking them in running water for days pulled the bitterness out and turned them into a real winter staple. The menu simply changed shape with the weather, and everyone adjusted together. Sharing mattered more than usual here. A hoarder in a lean, wet season just isolates himself. A fed group survives a bad month. A fed individual in a starving group does not. Rain and predators were not even separate threats. Heavy rain covers scent and muffles sound. A predator that a dry night would have exposed could close the distance almost silently in a storm. So storms forced double vigilance. Watch the cold and watch the tree line at the same time.
So now the actual question. Why did rain outrank the lion in the list of real threats? A predator is loud, visible, and over in seconds. You can fight it, flee it, or spear it. Rain gives no warning shape to react to, and it does not end in seconds. It ends in weeks. It disables every advantage humans had against predators at the same time. Fire goes out. Tools slip in wet hands. Group signals get lost in the noise of the storm. A lion tests your speed for one afternoon. Rain tests your planning for an entire season. A predator picks off one careless person. Bad rain planning wipes out a whole camp at once. Ancient humans who survived did not outrun the weather. They out-organized it. Every layered roof, every carried ember, every buried food cache was a vote against giving up. None of it looked dramatic while it was happening. No roar, no chase, no blood. Just people, paying attention, day after wet day, refusing to lose to the sky. That quiet, unglamorous fight against water is a large part of why we are still here. And the next time a storm cancels your plans for one afternoon, remember what it used to cost. The lion made a better story around a modern campfire. The rain made the campfire possible in the first place. So the next time thunder rolls outside your window, you are looking at the oldest rival our species ever had.